In a quiet village nestled between high mountains lived a 24-year-old young man named Marco. Marco was known as a thoughtful person, but his mind never seemed to rest. His thoughts moved constantly, like waves that never stopped crashing against the shore. Every day he found himself replaying memories from the past and worrying about things that might happen in the future. Because of this, he rarely felt calm. Sleep became difficult, his mind always racing with worries and doubts. Over time, even simple happiness seemed to fade from his life. One day, Marco heard a story about an elderly man who lived in a small hill village far away. People said the old man had once been a respected psychologist in the city. For many years he had helped people understand their thoughts and emotions, but later in life, he chose to leave the noisy city behind and live quietly among nature. From time to time, travelers visited him for guidance. When Marco heard about him, hope grew in his heart. Perhaps this man can teach me how to quiet my mind, he thought. Determined to find answers, Marco began the long journey through the hills. After several exhausting days of travel, he finally arrived at the village. There he saw a modest house surrounded by climbing plants and flowers. Sitting peacefully on the porch was the old man, resting quietly with his eyes closed. Marco approached respectfully. "Sir," he said gently, "my mind is always full of thoughts. I keep worrying and thinking, and I cannot find peace. Can you help me?" The old man slowly opened his eyes and gave Marco a calm, understanding smile. "If peace is what you seek," he replied softly, "then let us begin with a simple exercise." He walked Marco into his yard and filled a glass with water until it reached the very brim. Handing the glass to Marco, he said, "Walk to the end of the village road and then return. But you must be careful, do not spill even a single drop." Marco looked puzzled, but he accepted the challenge. Holding the glass with great care, he began walking down the road. The path was busy. People talked, merchants called out to customers, children laughed and played, and dogs barked along the street. Yet Marco noticed none of it. His full attention remained on the glass of water in his hands. Slowly and carefully, step by step, he walked to the end of the road and made his way back. When he returned, he smiled with relief. "I did it," Marco said. "Not a single drop spilled." The old man nodded. "Well done," he replied. "But tell me something. Did you see the children playing nearby? Did you hear the dogs barking along the street?" Marco shook his head. "No," he admitted. "I didn't notice anything around me. I was concentrating only on the water." The old man smiled again. "That is exactly the lesson," he said. "When your mind focuses fully on the present moment, unnecessary thoughts disappear. While you were walking, your attention was entirely on the glass. Because of that, your mind became quiet. You weren't thinking about past regrets. You weren't worrying about the future. You were simply aware of what you were doing in that moment." Marco stood silently, reflecting on the lesson. At last he understood. Peace had never been far away. It was something that appeared whenever the mind stopped wandering and returned to the present. Marco bowed respectfully. "Thank you," he said softly. "Now I understand that peace comes when we learn to live in the moment." The old man smiled warmly as the evening sun began to set. Birds flew back toward their nests and the village slowly grew quiet. Marco began the journey back to his home. But this time he carried something new with him, a calm mind and a peaceful heart, because now he knew that true peace begins when we learn to focus on the present moment.